Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title up there, it is time for another movie review. This is a movie that a couple times in the past I've touched on this channel, including doing a commentary with it with a good friend of mine. But it's been a while since I actually reviewed it, and I felt, you know what, this is one I could probably touch on again. It, of course, is Tobe Hooper's sequel to his own classic horror film from the 70s. This, of course, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The Buzz is back. It is a horror black comedy released in 1986. It was produced by the Cannon Group. Made for about a $4.5 million budget and made about $8 million, which, as I've brought up multiple times before, means that it would have more or less broken even based on Hollywood accounting. Even for being a lower budgeted film comparatively, they would have looked at it and gone, eh. The film runs about 101 minutes, and the fun thing about it is that just from the poster, if you've seen the poster, you know that the humor in here is going to be interesting, because the poster is a parody of The Breakfast Club. Now, when the film came out, I'm not sure how many fans might have expected it to be a little bit more humorous, considering that the trailer makes it seem a little bit more like a straightforward horror film. Now, since I had originally seen this film after I saw the first one, the humor didn't surprise me because it was kind of up the alley that Hooper had used a little bit in the first film, just dialed up a bit more, made a little bit more outrageous, which of course fit the vibe of some films from the 80s, especially this far into the 80s. But I think people were probably expecting it to be a little bit more straightforward, which is what we got in the follow-up film, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Now, like I said, Hooper returned to the director's chair. We got the legendary Dennis Hopper in here playing Lieutenant Lefty Enright. We got the lovely Caroline Williams in here as Stretch, and she looks excellent in this film. And of course, Jim Siedow returns as Drayton Sawyer, who is the cook from the original film. Here he gets a little bit more to work with. Or he's also got more screen time too, because he's mainly only in one part near the beginning and then the handful of scenes near the end. Here, a little bit more, but plus, you can tell he's really having a little bit more fun in here, and he's got some of the best lines in the movie. The small businessman always takes it in the ass. You got Bill Moseley, another legendary guy in here as Chop Top. And he's got some of the other good lines in this film. Get that bitch. Oh, lick my plate. My Sonny Bono wig. To name a few. Bill Johnson is Leatherface in the close-up shots. And Bob Elmore plays Leatherface when it's a not close-up one, and then we got Tom Morga playing Leatherface in the bridge scene, so replacement ones. Part of the reason for that was Gunnar Hansen, the original Leatherface, was approached, but he was offered scale plus 10, because the 10 was going to go to his agent, and then when he found out they had no, when he told them he had no agent, they're like, okay, just scale. For those who don't know, scale is essentially actor minimum wage. It is the lowest amount they can pay you. And I think you can kind of see why they would offer him scale when the budget's relatively low, but considering he played Leatherface in the first film, a lot of stuff they had to go through for that one, and this being the film that it's the long-awaited sequel, and it is made for, if I remember right, for a slightly higher budget, you could probably see why I was like, yeah, nah, I'm going to pass on that. Not to say that our three actors don't do a good job of playing Leatherface in the scenes they're in, but you can kind of tell that it's not the same person. I guess the only other thing to compare it to would be if they had actually gone through with their plan to replace Freddy in the second one, and also how there's little subtle differences between how Jason acts in the first couple films, or it's a different actor in each film. I mean, it's not that noticeable where you're like, okay, this doesn't seem like the same character, and you can attribute the differences to damage, but you can kind of notice there's like subtle differences. Or even like with Michael Myers, you can definitely tell there's a difference in the build between films. That one is hard to ignore. You got Ken Everett playing Grandpa, which he's a little bit more mobile in this one, which that's the one that's like, really? He would seem like he was more on death's door in the first one, but I say I like the makeup in here. You definitely see the makeup job improved with the budget. You got Lou Perry as L.G. Peters. A couple other ones. But those are the main people for this film. It takes place a couple years after the first one. I believe it says about a decade-ish. They never found the family, and they basically like, it's just ravings and all that. Sally from the first film, institutionalized. And Lieutenant Enright is their uncle, and he is the only one who really does believe that something happened. And he's like, this is a conspiracy, they're really trying to cover it up. And in the beginning of the film, we see two high school seniors who are driving along a desolate stretch of highway, and they call in to Stretch's show where she plays a lot of heavy metal music and other rock music, which this is how you get a lot of introduction to certain films. I mean, this is where we get the meme of, you were introduced to Goo Goo Muck by Wednesday, I was introduced to it by TCM2. We are not the same. I actually forgot that song was in this film, and then when I'm rewatching it, I'm like, oh, yeah, forgot about that. Now, they really are calling Stretch a lot, to the point where it's harassment, and she even tells them, like, hang up the phone, jackasses. But then, on their way back from the football game they were going to, they get attacked by a truck, and Leatherface is in the back. Now, part of that is earlier on when they were driving to it, they cut him off and they're like, you fucking hillbilly redneck type of attitude. Well, Leatherface gets both of them, and since they still were on the phone, Stretch is recording this because per their policy for their radio station, they have to record everything. And of course, police find the accident the next day and say, it was just an accident. Lefty shows up and he's like, this was no accident. And with how he's talking with the cops who are investigating, you can definitely see that they're like, Lefty, Lefty, Lefty. Every time something like this happens, you always come down here. This time, of course, Lefty is right. And given it's been years and all that, you can see that he knows he's going to be laughed at, but he's going to try to say he's right. And of course, he does manage to get them to put a thing in the paper, which the way they put it in there tells them they're not taking him seriously. But Stretch sees it. She goes and talks to him at the hotel he's at. He kind of, blows her off a little bit, but come to an understanding that she'll play the thing for him. At the same time, there's a chili cook-off, and this is where we're reintroduced, of course, to the cook. And we, the audience, can see through what he's saying. Like, he's always, his secret is he doesn't skip out of the meat. He always has an eye for prime meat. Oh, those white peppercorns. Really? But then, of course, when you realize how many people probably ate that chili, the Sawyer chili is people! You're like, who's going to tell him? Now, Stretch plays the sound every hour on the hour, says this is for Lefty, and Chop Top and Leatherface, Bubba as he's called, hear it, and they call Drayton on the phone, and they essentially go there. That night, of course, the studio gets a lot of complaints from callers. Her friend gets killed by Chop Top, and she gets attacked by Leatherface. Now, the scene leading up to this, we could tell right away there's something weird with Chop Top, in the same way that we could see there was something weird with the hitchhiker, who in this film was Dub Nubbins in the first one. Now, until we saw him later, we didn't know if that weirdness was going to be the same, but you could tell there's something weird about him. This is the sequel, right away you can tell, okay, something's weird with Chop Top, and he's probably going to have to do with it. And then just the way that Leatherface comes in, where he gets Chop Top right on his plate, which you got from Nam, which explains why he wasn't in the first film, because he was probably still overseas serving. And Leatherface goes, he doesn't kill Stretch though, because apparently he has a little bit of a celebrity crush on Stretch. And this scene, I remember this scene, and I remember hearing about this scene just from reading it, and I'm like, Chainsaw sex scene. Then when I saw it the first time, I'm like, oh. And watching it, the way Tobe Hooper sets this scene up, it is erotic in a very, very comedic way. And it fits the black comedy tone that everything in this film has. Not everything, like the Fry House bit is not really dark humor. It's like cute humor. But this is where it is a little bit of dark humor. And I love how Stretch plays along just to get him to not kill her. And the dialogue is really what sells it. I'm like, oh yeah, this scene is a little bit funnier than I remember it being. Then, of course, at the end, he doesn't kill her, but Leatherface throws a bitch fist around the whole place to make it seem like he did something to her. And then, of course, lies to his brother, like, did you get her? Part of that, I guess you could say, is he's pent up and he's doing that to make sure she survives. Now, Stretch ends up at the family's headquarters, which is an abandoned theme park. Lefty shows up, and by this point, he has gotten himself some chainsaws. He's got a big old one, and he's got two smaller ones. Now, he and Stretch get separated. Stretch gets found out by the family, and this is where everybody finds out that he has a crush on her. And they invite her to dinner, so kind of like Sally in the first one. And of course, Lefty slowly makes his way through the theme park, and he finds the remains of his nephew, including still in the same wheelchair. That's how we know it's him. Now, when they're about to kill Stretch, they're letting Grandpa do it. Doesn't work out as well. Probably a little bit better than the first one, because he seems a little bit more energetic, but doesn't work out. And the film ends, of course, with a big old fight between Lefty and Leatherface, and of course this is where he gets some of his lines, like, I'm the Lord of the Harvest. And the way that Hooper ends this film, you can definitely tell he did not have any sequel plans in mind, mainly because all the family dies in different ways, including Leatherface. I mean, the wounds he takes from Lefty, there's no way Leatherface is going to survive. Leatherface is not like Jason, and he's not like certain incarnations of Michael Myers, and of course he's not like Freddy in the dream world. He cannot tank serious injuries and come out unscathed. Temporarily he might do the adrenaline rush, but after a bit it's going to be like, yeah, you are gone. That's all I'm going to say about it for those who haven't seen. And of course the side ones, they're going to go out. And then of course ending with Stretch with the chainsaw. You can definitely tell that Hooper made this film in mind with no more with him. Now, part of that is that the original idea that Hooper and Kim Henkel had was that it would be an entire town of cannibals, which, of course, for that it'd be a satire of Motel Hell, which apparently is a satire of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. I haven't seen Motel Hell yet, as of I'm recording this, but that has me intrigued to see it, and also the fact it's, you know, the whole thing with the pig head and chainsaw. And it was going to be called Beyond the Valley of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was the studio that nixed that, probably for budget reasons, and then they made this one. With all the attempts they've done to reboot Texas Chainsaw, why they haven't done that idea is beyond me, because that idea just sounds like a lot more interesting, especially as a legacy sequel idea, which I have not seen the Netflix one, but that might be another one to review. And watch the original one, then watch that one, see what I think about it as a legacy sequel. There's not really much else to say about it. I mean, the special effects are excellent, like the kid who gets killed at the beginning, the head falling apart from getting hit with the chainsaw, excellent. Of course, the effect of Leatherface, the damage he takes is pretty good, and a lot of the gore in there. I mean, it's definitely a lot more than the first one, at least overt gore is more implied in the first one. The Leatherface mask, definitely a good one. Definitely shows they had a little bit more of a budget compared to the first one. Leatherface's characterization is definitely in line with the first one, but you can tell that the actor interpreted it a little bit differently. The acting, of course, from Caroline Williams, excellent. You definitely believe Stretch in every moment she's in, and that she's thinking her way out of the situations as best she can. Despite what Dennis Hopper would later say about him as Lefty, he does play it well. Now, probably because of his acting being what was needed for the tone of the film, maybe that's why he didn't like it. But I think it works. I mean, you definitely tell he is a character that is not believed by the system. He's doing his best within the system to find the people who killed his nephew and attacked his niece and all the other kids and all that. And maybe near the end he finally is snapping onto the strain of it all. And Hopper, he only does ham it up in a moment where it really helps and it fits with the tone of the film. I mean, like I said, it is a dark, humorous film at times. It still does have a little bit of that horror edge there, but you can definitely see that Hooper is going a little bit more for laughs here. But it's not like fully winking. It's humor that fits within the scope of a horror film without making it ridiculous. Or at least more ridiculous than others. It's not like Leprechaun ridiculous, where the film is doing what it's doing with tongue firmly planted in cheek. It's not that over the top quite yet. By the fourth film, that's where we get there. Maybe that's one I'll rewatch and re-review because I haven't seen that film in ages. But that's part 4. This is part 2. And the music definitely fits the tone and scope of what's going on in this film. And it's really all there is to say about it. If you have seen the first one and you wondering which ones to watch, the first 2 sequels definitely, I'd say, are required. The ones that are definitely required to watch after the first one are these 2 and the remake. Everything else is optional, I would think. If you love the remake, then watch the prequel, but note that part of the ending of that one has you go, ugh. And then every other one, it's going to depend on how big a fan of the series you get. And as you can tell from that, this does come with my stamp of approval when it comes to all these slasher films from the 80s. I just wish this film had made more money, but it definitely has gotten a following in the years since. Let's see real quick what the critical response is, because I'm curious. Here's what Ebert had to say when he gave it 1 out of 4 stars. Goes flat out from one end to the other, never spending any time on pacing, on timing, on the anticipation of horror, doesn't even pause to establish the characters. Dennis Hopper has the most thankless task, playing a man who spends the first half of the movie looking distracted and vague, and the second half screaming through chainsaw duels. It doesn't have the terror of the original, the desire to be taken seriously. It's a geek show. I just think some of that kind of shows that Ebert really had it out for horror as a genre. One of the reasons I don't really take a lot of his things seriously. To say pacing, I'd say the pacing works for this film on timing. Did he not watch the scene with Chop Top? I mean, you know that he's creepy, like I said, but part of that is the anticipation of knowing something's going to happen. It's like when we, the audience, know there's an explosive device underneath the table, but the characters don't. We're anticipating it. We just are wondering, okay, where is Leatherface going to come out from, and what's he going to do? And then pause to establish the characters. With a lot of this, I'm wondering if me and him watched the same film. The Hopper one might have a little bit of a thing there, but like I said, I think part of that is his character finally snapping. This is what AllMovie said about it. Much hated at the time of its release, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has aged remarkably well, not playing as a strangely effective, not too subtle satire of several facets of 80s excess. That's one way to view it, I guess. There's not really much else to say now. Like my stamp of approval. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And in the words of Chop Top, get that bitch!